The first half of this episode was action-packed, but then the second half, which wrapped up the season, really just kind of left more questions than it did answering them, and kind of left me unfulfilled.
The Wall, Raid on Stohest District, Part 3.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters and titans and just fans in general of this awesome series. I, as always, am Jim, and I'm here to bring you another review, the final review for the first season of it anyway, of Attack on Titan. This, of course, is for the English-dubbed Toonami, one that's been premiering on Toonami that Funimation did such an excellent job with. And this is for the 25th and final episode. Of course, we'll dive right into it here, but following the events of the last episode, which was very ho-hum in the sense that, you know, they kind of left you hanging, and then I was just infuriated with Eren and his just reluctance to actually go and face facts that Annie is the traitor, and you gotta go kill this bitch now, man up. Anyway, at the end of that episode, of course, he did man up. He did turn into and changed into the crazy sort of Eren. I like to call him the Mick Jagger Titan because for me, he sort of just looks like this sort of drugged out rock star, I guess, from like the 70s, 60s or 70s. And I think of like a Mick Jagger, a Keith Richards, that sort of thing. Anyway, he wound up going and just bashing that bitch and she crashed into a building. And that is, of course, how the episode ended off. It winds up picking up right there, and actually all of the action and the fighting takes place in the first, like 10 minutes, in the first half of the episode. And that's fine, because it was done very well. The beginning of it, what I really liked, is you have all these crazed, the wall lovers, wall huggers, whatever you want to call them. It's like their religion, the walls are sacred, the walls are this, the walls are that. And they're having a little meeting inside a church, and they're talking about how the sacred and the sanctimonious, all this other sanctimonious is the word I was looking for, sanctimonity, making shit up again. Anyway, and it's cool because this goes on for like a minute or two, and then all of a sudden, the female Titan comes crashing in on it, and you realize that's the interior of the building that Eren went and busted her into, and her big ass fell on in the last episode. So it was actually kind of neat, and it was almost like a poetic justice for these people because. And I haven't read ahead in the manga, so I don't really know what their situation, what their deal is. They didn't touch too much on them in the first 25 episodes in this first season, but they definitely seemed sort of like those kind of really super crazed, super religious nuts that don't really know why they're super crazy, but they just are, in regards to the wall. Anyway, that'll wrap around, though, and kind of give us a little bit of insight into the sneak peek that we kind of get at the end of the episode, which I'll get to in a few minutes. But so the first half is really, it's Eren and the female Titan, round 2, going at it, toe-to-toe, and it's like Mortal Kombat, it's round 2, fight. And I mean, they're beating the shit out of each other. And for some reason, the first time that I watched this, when I did watch it on Crunchyroll last year, I didn't pick up on just some of the brutality of the fight. I knew that Eren had lost part of his leg. I think it was part of his leg or part of his arm. But anyway, but looking at it again and viewing it again, and then watching, of course, the reactions, from my wife and from my sons and stuff, it was neat to see because Eren really manned up, man. He's not as strong as Annie in the sense that she's a better fighter. She's a more well-trained fighter, and fighting, a lot of fighting really is playing defense and letting your opponent show their weakness or come to you and exposing that weakness, and that's what she does. But he just keeps coming. I mean, he is a man possessed, and it shows you that heart can sometimes take you past what your physical prowess could not accomplish. And that's what I really liked about it, is that the fight itself was brutal. One of his legs comes off. One of his arms is taken off. I don't know if that was from pummeling her or whatever. I forget the exact sequence of events, but he gets knocked into this fucking building, and he's sitting there, and you're thinking, oh, man, he's done again. And she goes taking off again, running, And she always looks like, they always like kind of do her in this pose where she's like running, and they just like zoom in kind of on her ass cheeks, And it's like, listen, I don't want to see that shit. Okay? It's a 45-foot-tall, freakish-like beast, okay? I don't care how good her ass looks. She's still this crazed Godzilla-like beast that I don't want to have nothing to do with. Anyway, besides the point, she gets a couple hundred yards away from him, and Eren is so angry, right, that his shit, he just starts on fire, right? He literally is like, I'm on fire! And I mean, he is just, boom, man. I mean, it's like that song from Fall Out Boy, light him up, and he's on fire. So he gets up, and what's cool is he starts doing this sort of like gallop sort of thing towards her, And he does it because he's only got one good arm and one good leg, right? And this dude's like, just like climbing and crawling along buildings and shit like fucking Spider-Man, so he can get to this bitch and tear into her again, you know? And what I really liked about it is the way that they showed it and portrayed it is that she's definitely the superior fighter, but he has more resolve, okay? He just has more inner strength that's coming out, and that's helping him rise above and be able to take down this crazy bitch, you know? And he does. He winds up going, he's pummeling her, he's beating his shit out of her. She winds up getting an escape in his grasp again, and then goes and starts climbing up the wall, right? I mean, just digging her fingers in and climbing up the wall to get out of Stois District, right? She wants to get the fuck out of Dodge now, right? This went from like, this went from like a capture mission, like an infiltration, information gathering, and capture mission of Eren, because that's what I think her original intention was, to like a, oh shit, I gotta go. The dude's on fire. He only got one leg and one arm, and he trying to eat me, you know? And he is. He's coming at her. So he goes, and as she's climbing up the wall, man, I love this shit. He's climbing up the wall, you know, everybody else is kind of hanging back, Mikasa and Armin and all that stuff and everything. They're kind of hanging back, just sort of watching the show unfold, you know? And he goes and just tear her fucking leg off, right? And then winds up falling down, you know, and she's getting away. And then Mikasa comes in, and man, I tell you, she come in and she's just like, oh yeah, bitch? Oh yeah? You want to try to take my man? You want to try to fuck with my man? I don't think so. And she just comes across and fucking just goes and cuts this bitch's fingertips off, right? Where she's dug in on both hands, causing her to go, ah, and fall 50 feet, 100 feet, whatever, to the ground. Not to her doom, but to the ground and back into the waiting arms of a crazed, on fire Eren Titan, right? So wonderfully done, because Mikasa was just like, yeah, you ain't getting away again, bitch. I'm gonna tell you. You tried to fuck with me before, you tried to eat my boyfriend, I'm gonna fuck you up now. And that's what she does. And then Eren, I mean, just going and pummeling and pounding, winds up going and knocking ripping one of her fucking hands off, and this thing goes and whips and sticks into this wall and this bridge, and a bunch of people are like, whoa, goddamn, a giant hand, right? And then he goes and he just fucking tears her head off, you know, and exposing the Annie that's inside, you know, kind of like she did to him when she wound up getting him with that kick back in episode 22. But man, just intense and brutal, and every bit as good as it was when I saw it a year ago. But even better, because now it's not only in English, but I'm sitting there and I'm enjoying it with others, with my family, which for me is a wonderful treat, you know, and they're all hooked, man. We're all, we're season 2, you know, it's not coming till next year, but anyway, still very cool. So, that's really what was the deal with that, right? And then as he goes, he hesitates as he's going to go to rip her out, right? Well, first of all, he's going to go and he's trying to eat the bitch, you know what I mean? And you can't be going to eat the bitch. But it doesn't matter, because he hesitates for a second, and in that second that he hesitates, we get this flashback of Annie and her father, who always pushed her very hard and molded her into the person she is, whatever. Don't really get much information on it, but basically she winds up going, and there's like tears that start coming down her eyes, and she somehow is able to go and actually crystallize herself before Eren gets to her in this crystallis type cocoon, right? Reminds me of something like Final Fantasy, the crystals. Anyway, and this shit's impervious to anything, because people are trying to cut it with swords later on and everything else and whatnot. But ultimately, Eren, ultimately the whole mission was a failure when you think about it, because yeah, did we stop the female Titan? Sure, yeah. But now she's cocooned in this, you know, crystallis or whatever. Nobody can get to her. She can't be questioned. We don't know why she was there. We don't know anything more than we did before all the loss of life that took place over the last, 12 episodes because of her, you know. And that's the frustrating part, I think. For me, that's the frustrating part. Not enough information given at all. She's just done. And then we wind up going and seeing during the course of the episode, the shit with, the guys that were holding Irvin, basically at gunpoint or whatever. The commander dipshit of the MPs that's there. He decides not to shoot Irvin and actually just to go and put him into custody, and then to go and actually carry on the rest of this plan, this raid. And don't get me wrong, was Irvin right for keeping it from everybody? Probably not. There's a chain of command and everything else. But also, would anybody have agreed to luring this female Titan out in the middle of Stois District or by all the higher ups? Fuck no. They're all a bunch of pussies. They would have been like, no, keep that shit out of here, Irvin. We don't care. So he did what he thought was best at the time, and really it winds up boiling down to nothing getting solved. And that's the only frustrating part about this entire season, is that not really much got solved. Eren doesn't really have a better grasp on his powers. Kind of, maybe, but not really. Still kind of doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. You know, he wakes up and, you know, a couple days later or whenever it's been, and we see Levi and Irvin and all them kind of going in for it to get, you know, court-martialed, or we think get court-martialed, and we see the higher-ups, the dipshits, basically going, well, you know, it's really hard for me to think of a good reason to not go and declare this mission as a total failure and everything. Listen, I get your point and everything else, but really, nobody's doing anything to solve the issues or the problems here. We're no closer to finding out who these changeling titans are, where they come from, why they're humans, because we assume that the only humans left on Earth were in the walled cities, you know. So it's very, very cliffhanger-y, you know, and as I understand it, what a lot of people have told me, it's different from the manga, and I'll eventually know, but I've been trying to not get spoiled, so I haven't read ahead, even though I own the first dozen volumes. I've actually only read the first 4 or 5. And it's mainly been because I really, really enjoyed the series, and I'm looking forward to seeing the next season of it and what they do with it, and then I can read to catch up with that. That's just a personal opinion, and that I have a personal choice, I guess you would say. So all in all, it was a very good episode, but the last half of it was very deflating in the sense that nothing really got solved, no questions got answered, nothing that you would expect from the end of a season, and such a great series such as this, that was done so well, you know, with the animation, the voice acting, just everything, just looked very, very good, you know. That post-apocalyptic world is something that interests a lot of people, myself included, and I think that's the main draw of the story. And I understand that you got to dangle a carrot and you got to leave some things out there, but we really didn't find out any answers, you know, which was a little bit frustrating. So everything winds up ending up, and after the credits roll, they go and they kind of zoom in the wall that was damaged from Annie climbing up it, and Annie, the female Titan, climbing up it, and we wind up actually seeing a piece of the wall that's crumbled away, and it looks like the face, the partial face of a Titan that's actually inside the wall. And when I first saw this last year, I was like, holy shit! And when everybody in my family saw it this year, they were like, holy shit! And I'm not sure what the whole deal is. I'm sure that it'll be explained further as we go on into the series. But it leads me to believe that these great walls that were not penetrated, it's such a dirty word, but these walls that had not been breached in 100+ years, you know, that there's Titans inside of them. I don't know how that wasn't discovered when the Colossal Titan and the Armored Titan went busting through walls on the outer part. I don't know if maybe there's just corpses of some of these things in there. Maybe some of these Titans are laying dormant in there. I don't know. It just kind of left more questions unanswered. And this season I would chalk up to as being almost like the TV series Lost. The first season was excellent and left you hanging with a bunch of great questions, but they never in the 5 seasons after that really wrapped up and explained a lot of those, gave you answers to those questions. So I'm really hoping that season 2 does give us a little more as far as just the kind of characterization, the background, the things that you're really looking for to kind of progress and move that story forward, as it feels like the whole season was almost like a waste in the sense that there wasn't a lot that happened, you know. I mean, obviously Eren and Mikasa and all them were trained and what have you, and there was a passage of time with that. But for the most part, it was pretty much just, you know, the humans losing more of their, you know, more ground, you know, and more of their people, and not really getting anything in return. There was no exchange, you know what I mean? So you can't just have a bunch of down, down, down notes without the occasional win or the occasional positive up note. So just my 2 cents. My chapter or my episode question, I guess, for you, brothers and sisters, is what were your thoughts overall on this first season, and certainly what are some of the things you're looking forward to seeing or questions being answered in season 2? Leave your answer to that question or those questions in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching you in the next season, Nation.
Thank you. Come again. Remember to look at my other channels and follow me on Facebook and Twitter.